Hi, my name's Alicia, and I've been working for Dada for 6 months now. And here are my 5 pros and cons about working for Dada. They are based on my personal experience, so do bear that in mind as you listen, to what I have to say. I've made some notes to keep me on track, so I can include everything I wanted to share with you today in this video. So my first pro is the fact that you can work from home. I love that aspect of it because you don't have to deal with traffic, you don't have that time that's consumed in your day just with traveling. And I think that's a really great aspect. It makes it really convenient for home and family life. So that's one thing that really I find is really fantastic about working for Dada. Number two, the hours. You can pick your hours. So you can actually choose how many hours you want to work during the week. So you could work as little as 4 hours a week. You could work 15 hours a week, which I have done. I've altered my hours now because I wanted to take them down just a little bit, and that's something you can do when you re-sign a contract with Dada, but I'll go into that later. The hours that you can work with them, it's 3 hours a day, Monday to Friday. And over the weekend, you can do additional hours if you want to, so you can pick up extra work there if that's something that you want to do. So it is quite flexible because I am aware that with some companies that work on a similar basis where they're teaching English online, you are required to actually work over the weekend, which is something I didn't want to do. So that is something I find really brilliant about working for Dada. Bonuses, there are different ways in which you can get bonuses. It's not something that Dada talk about, and like before you join in terms of the interview process, but you can get bonuses for taking trial classes. You can get bonuses for having regular students. So when you've had a student and you've retained that student, you've taught say 4, 5 lessons or maybe 20 lessons or something like that, you would actually receive an additional bonus in your pay in regard to that. So that's something that I think is really good. And then there are other little things. So they may have, say, competitions, or just because I can see that they want to encourage teachers to share best practice. So they reward teachers that do that. So if that's something that appeals to you, you can actually find yourself picking up extra bonuses working at Dada that way. Payment. This is something that I was really surprised at, is that they will actually pay for your time whether you have a student or not. Let me just clarify. They will pay you half pay for your time. So say you're contracted for 2 hours. It's Monday morning and you're only actually teaching for one of those hours. The other hour there were no students booked. They will pay you full pay for that full first hour. They will pay you half pay for the second hour, which I think is absolutely brilliant, especially here when I'm mindful of the employment market as it is, and the zero contract hours that is becoming so much more popular now. It's really great that they do give you some form of retainer in that way. I know that there are companies that if you don't have any students, you get no pay. It's as clear cut as that. So I think that's a really brilliant aspect of working with Dada. Courseware. Now, this is something that to me I think is brilliant. The fact that they do have courseware, the fact that you don't need to prepare your lessons from scratch. Because if you've done any form of teaching, if you've done a presentation, even if you've done anything like that, you'll be aware that to do that, you have to do and prepare everything from scratch, and that takes time. You've got to prepare that before you go into your class. With Dada, they have courseware, which basically, when you go onto the teaching platform, it looks kind of like it's like having Skype, but you've got an electronic book. That's the only way I can describe it. And you click through that, and that is what you teach from. And it's your job to really embellish and enrich the material that's in front of you. And that's a lot easier to do than having to, teach every lesson and prepare every lesson from scratch. So to me, that is definitely a pro in my mind. As for the cons, I have five of those too. My first one is writing reports. Now, you do need to write reports about your students after each lesson. And this is something that you do in your own time. It's not something that you are paid for. And that's so that you can tell the student what they were good at, give them some encouragement, and give pointers as to what things they need to improve on as well. All of those things are included in that report. And then there's a periodical report that you do, and that's say about 150 words long, that kind of thing. And in that report, you will give a general overview of how that student's doing with you, and all that's done in your own time. So they're not massively long reports, not like 10,000 words, but it's still something to take into account when you're working for a company, such as when you're working for Dada. Fixed hours is really important that you're clear about what hours you want to work for Dada, because once you set your hours, that's it. You can't change them. When I say that is, so if you signed up and you said, right, I'm going to work for them 2 days a week, 3 days a week, I'm going to work 4 hours. That's what you will be contracted to do. So it's 2 days a week, you're working 4 hours, that's what they expect. If you think, you know what, I really like this, I want to bump up my hours, it's not going to be so easy and straightforward to do that. And vice versa. If you've decided to do Monday to Friday and then you decide, you know what, I want to reduce my hours, that is not something that Dada is really going to accept. They're not happy about that type of thing. So you really need to be clear about what type of hours you want. There is a possibility for you to pick up more hours as you go along. They will give you the opportunity to pick up what they call part-time hours, and that opportunity isn't something that begins from the get-go. That's something that you can eventually gain as you gain experience and you teach with Dada. So, and you've got weekends as well, which you could work if that's something that you want to do. Then my third con is something, it's really about the time that you're in there and you're working, the 2 minute break. What I mean by that is you're teaching a student, then you'll get a warning, you need to close down your class and you need to be into the next class, and you've got 2 minutes to do so. And you know what? It does feel really tight, especially when you're starting and you're new at this and you're doing it. It takes some time to get used to that. So that can be a bit of a challenge. So that's something to be mindful of. You are working online, it is a different medium, and that can just make it a little bit more edgy. But over time, I do think I've certainly got used to it. My fourth con is about regular students. When you start, and this isn't the case for everyone, this was my experience though, I didn't have regular students from day one. I had I had a few trial classes. There were some days where there were no classes. Bear in mind though, I was still getting that half pay while I didn't have any classes. And then over time, gradually, I began to have more trial classes. I began to have gain some regular students, and my number of students built up. And that is that's my personal experience. I am aware that there are some um, teachers that start with Dada, and from day one, from the get go, they have a full house of students. So it can work like that, but that's something I wanted to make you aware of so that you are prepared for that if that's the case. But bear in mind, there is that cushion that you do get the half pay whether you have a student or not. And another thing as well is that when you do get students, you don't necessarily need to have an incredible amount of students, because it's not uncommon for those students when they're with you to have, say, 2 or 3 lessons with you. I've even had a student who's had 4 lessons during a week. So, it can be quite intense with one student. So that's something to be mindful of. So lastly, number 5, teaching online. And this is something, it's more to do with how you feel about it. Teaching online is a different medium and it may suit some people, and for some people it may make you feel really uncomfortable. And I'm aware of that because just being aware of they do have Facebook groups and there's teachers in there who said, you know what, I've been teaching for years and they've found that teaching online is quite a different animal and not something they're so comfortable with. And if you've been sitting, having, working with really young children and you're having to do all of that, you're not clowning around. Not everybody feels comfortable with that. Some people do like the idea or prefer the idea of having that brick and mortar experience when they teach. So that's something that really you need to be aware of, and that's your personal preference. For myself, I think it's absolutely fine. I quite like it. So, I like being able to work from home. I like the flexibility that that offers. So to me, that's really great. And that's it. Those are my pros and cons for working for Dada. If you have any questions and comments, put them in the put it all in the comments below. If you like the sound of this and you think, you know what, I can work with that, then you could use my referral link, which is in the description box below. Just click on that and that'll take you straight through and you can begin the process of joining Dada. So that's all I wanted to share with you today. I hope you found that helpful, and that's all from me. Bye.